I'm back with Debbie Miller, who is the Retirees Home Transition Expert and a certified senior advisor for people who are over 55 or their families who are dealing with people who need to make a change and decide whether to sell their home or stay in place. And I guess the thing that I'd like to ask you about now, Debbie, is the financial end of it. If I'm selling my home, I've got a down payment or I've got the full price to go into another facility. But if I'm staying where I am and if I'm on a limited income, how do I finance the remodeling that might need to be done?
The simplest way is to use either a home equity line of credit against the house or do a simple reverse mortgage where the bank pays you to stay in your home. I've had clients who have gone that route. The bank sends them money every month. They can use it for whatever they need, whether to put on a new roof or make adjustments to the interior, pay off bills, that sort of thing. And there are some conditions such that you have to watch out for, so that when you pass away, the home has to be sold and the balance of the loan has to be paid back, but it's not anything that has to be done while you're enjoying living in your home. And a home equity line of credit simply lets you borrow against the value of your home and take a portion out. You do have to pay that back. It's not the same as a reverse mortgage.
Do you suggest, I've heard all about the reverse mortgages and I've always been a little skeptical. Do you advise doing that? Has that worked out well for people?
There has been big changes. As the baby boomers age, big changes have come to the reverse mortgage market, and it's much safer. I still encourage people to have an attorney review the mortgage jargon and make sure that they understand what the conditions are. It is a little bit more expensive up front to pay the fees and that sort of thing, but it has changed substantially so that I think as baby boomers age and need to have more financing options, this will come about. There's a HECM for purchase, HECM for purchase, home equity mortgage for purchase. And so if you're moving and you don't want to necessarily, you don't have any money tied up in your home, you can put a down payment down and then do the rest through a reverse mortgage, but you don't have to pay the mortgage. You simply have to agree to pay the insurance, if there's a homeowners association, your taxes, that sort of thing, but you don't pay on the mortgage. After you pass away, any children or heirs would have 6 months to sell the property, and it works out. It's a much better situation, and it's gaining in popularity. And I think as the baby boomers age, other programs will come about. But it used to be 20 years ago, I wouldn't tell you, don't even look at a reverse mortgage. Now it's becoming more popular, and as long as you have good legal advice to review the conditions and the terms of the mortgage, definitely look into it.
Fantastic. Well, so how does someone get started in all of this?
That's a good question. First of all, you could take my seminar or read my book. No, I'm just kidding.
But let's talk about that for just a minute. So do you still do seminars, and how often do you do them, and how would people find out about them?
They can email me, and what I'm working on now, Gayle, is to have Facebook Live seminars so that people can tune in, and either that or put it up on a YouTube kind of thing where they can just log in when they have time and it's convenient. I'm looking at those options still. They're not set in cement yet, but it's the wave of the future, and it lets people,
I think it's brilliant. I think it's fantastic.
Take the class when you have time, not when I'm available. And then we have options for them to then have a consultation. I will go in, if they're close by, I'll go in and talk to them. If they're outside the area, we can talk on Skype or Facebook and discuss their situation. And then I like to listen to what they need and where they want to go. And then I write up what I call a lifestyle transition plan. I'm working on one now. The gentleman's not retiring for a while, but he wants to know, what does he have to do to get ready to make the move. He wants to go to a different state, totally different lifestyle after he retires. So we worked out the plan to get his home ready to sell. And then I evaluated the location he's interested in, gave him some suggestions. And so he is very happy that he has this plan now. He can hold on to it, gives him goals. So many people are overwhelmed at the prospect. They don't understand even what to begin with. They can look on the internet, but how do they know? And then they have to take time to travel to different locations. Whereas having done this for so many years, I can listen and tell them, here are the areas you should look at. And if you don't want to pay taxes, here you go. And I give them all the resources. And then we talk about what makes sense for them. What do they absolutely have to have? What can they maybe not have, but would like to have? And then, I don't really care about it. For example, don't buy in a golf course community if you don't play golf, that kind of obvious stuff. But there's so many different options for them. And I talk about pretty much all of them in the book. So it helps them at least get the information. My opinion is that the more information you have, the better choices you're going to make.
Oh, there's no question about that. It's really, I think, just really interesting how life changes. I mean, when I sold my home, because I had a huge home, 6,000 square feet, and it was just me and my animals, and so I decided I held on to it for 5 years after my husband passed away because of a lot of different reasons. But when I sold it, I went into an apartment, and I was going to stay a year. And now I'm in my 5th year, probably going into my 6th year. I'm just renting. And, but I've got these other 2 homes, and it's very interesting because my life is not, I will never retire. I mean, I will always be doing something. So my lifestyle is so different, but what are some of the questions that people ask you? What are the main things you hear from people?
How do I even figure out how to get rid of my stuff? And my children don't want me to go here, but I want to. How do I know if I can afford this? We talk about those kinds of issues. And I asked them, what would be your dream lifestyle if you could dream it up? What would you like to have? Would you like warm weather, cold weather for skiing? Would you like walkability? Would you like an urban area? Would you prefer the suburbs? Would you, those kinds of issues are very important. I also give them a list of things they need to remember when they're thinking about things, because a lot of times you've never done this. I've done it hundreds of times for people, but what are some things you have to think about? And simple things like, well, where's the nearest hospital? How many doctors are there? Is there a doctor who can cover what I have? What if my plans change and I become ill and can't make the move after all? What do I do then? So I like to work with planners rather than procrastinators, but those are issues that have to come about. And when I talk to the people, the couple or the single person, I ask them a bunch of questions about their current lifestyle, what they like about it, what they would like to change. And then from there, we segue into what would my new lifestyle look like. And from there, I can help them pinpoint through questions, do an analysis, and help them figure out what works for them.
So who do you find, I know you do everybody, but who do you find you work with most? Is it the children of the older person, or is it the older person themselves?
I think it's close to 50-50. The older people, usually the adult children, once they know I'm in charge, they love it because it's like renting a daughter. They don't have to deal with mom and dad. I get to do it. I get to take the brunt.
And you could be the bad person, right?
And then the children, dump on me. They tell me all their frustrations. Well, I can't get mom to do such and such. So I get to be the one to go in and put on my social worker hat and get mom to say, yes, you have to get rid of the avocado carpet that you've had since the 70s. And we're going to show that, we have to show them what buyers want, not what they want. And so it's a lot of negotiating and liaison type stuff. But I work with adult children. I mean, I had an adult child once. Her father was a hoarder, and she lived in one state and he was in another. And bless her heart, she had to clean out his hoarding. In August, he had no air conditioning, and he was a hoarder, and a lot of mildew and moisture had come into the house, and he was very sick from breathing in all the mess of the mold, etc. So, I gave her tips. I think I talked to her on the phone 4 and 5 times a day just to encourage her and say, you can do this. Let's do this. Let's set this up. And she got him out, and as soon as he got out, he was much improved health-wise. But he wouldn't listen to anybody. And so I gave her some tips on what to do with dads who won't listen and want to keep everything and go back out into the dumpster and pick it up after hours. And we had a dumpster that left every day at 5, so he couldn't go out at night and pick through the stuff and bring it back in with him. But and then I deal with just the parents. They perhaps have a situation where they have no children, or it's a widow and she's just lost since her husband passed, and so I can go in and help her. And I have a lot of years of construction and renovation behind me, so I can tell them you only have to do these things to get the house ready to sell. Sometimes we don't do anything. I just have an investor who will come in and take over the problem. It really depends on the situation, but hoarders are near and dear to my heart. I've worked with many over the years, and the adult children are interesting because all their emotions about mom and dad moving come out. And they may feel that, well, geez, if mom goes into this kind of community, I'm going to lose my inheritance, or it will be much less than what I had hoped for. So there's all kinds of different ones. I can tell you stories that would be a whole nother show for you.
Well, it's interesting what you were talking about with the mold on my friend who had a library that was unreal. I mean, and she wanted to leave all her books to a particular museum, and the museum came in and they could really only take maybe a dozen books because she did not believe in air conditioning. And, it was Miami and there's a lot of humidity, and there were a lot of brown pages, even on fairly new books. And so they couldn't take them. When they put them in a library, it's got to be pristine. So it was just very heartbreaking, really, in a lot of ways,
Yes,
but
it's very sad. It's very sad. And they don't understand that putting them in a basement and then leaving the window open and it rains and the mold builds up ruins whatever you may have stored down there.
Exactly. But do you recommend renting a place before you buy in a new location?
I think it's a wise thing to consider. Some people have already bought a place and they use it as a vacation home and they plan to retire there. But if you're looking at different locations, I think so many of these communities now have stay and play kind of programs where you go for a long weekend. If you can stay longer, that's great. Whatever it takes to find enough time to go to the grocery store and find out how much food costs there, and find out how far it is to the hospital and what kind of amenities there are, and get to know the people and the neighbors, talk to people in the community to see what they hate and what they like and that kind of thing. But I definitely think renting, even just to stay for a weekend, is an excellent option. And a lot of these communities do have programs like that where you can stay. They'll give you a reduced rate in a hotel nearby, or you'll stay in one of the properties itself. There's different ways of doing it. But why would you want to sell your home and move to a totally different location, pay a mover to lug all this stuff, and then you buy something and then you get there and you say, I don't like this? Well, then you've got to pay to get it sold, and it's just not worth it. It's better to be absolutely sure that this is going to be the place for you.
Well, this even happened to my granddaughter. Her husband got they were living in Florida, in Pensacola, Florida, and he got a job out in Carmel, Monterey area in California. And even though it paid very well, by the time they got out there and had to pay for everything that was going on out there, and California is not an inexpensive state, they just didn't even have enough money to practically eat. And she said to me, well, they don't have like buy one, get one free here. You pay for everything individually. Where, here we're great on, if you buy one, you get two, And so actually they moved back yesterday. So,
Oh my goodness.
because they were able to get a beautiful brick home in Pensacola with 3 bedrooms, huge yard, pool, everything for $120,000. And,
Yeah, it doesn't make.
it
Yeah.
wasn't, you
Hmm.
couldn't get a closet in California for that. So, I mean, it really was a very interesting situation. And luckily, I mean, they're young, they're in their 20s, but luckily, they learned an important lesson early. And
Yes.
it makes a big difference. It really does. So,
When someone's been in their home for 40 or 50 years or a length of time, it's tragic to see that happen. I had a gentleman who he had multiple sclerosis, could barely walk by himself, had a wheelchair to help him, and for some reason, he wanted to move to California. So I said, you know what you need to do is you need to fly out there and see what's out there. Well, he spent the weekend at the place he was interested in. He came back. He said, Debbie, I'm so glad you told me to do that. I hate the place. And so he's still ensconced. He's ensconced. He has an elevator townhome, but he doesn't use the upper floors. He just uses the main and one level up. But it's a 4-story townhouse with an elevator. But he was so glad that he didn't take that big step, sell the townhouse and do whatever. So it worked out well for him. But I can't stress it enough. Why you're going to a whole new lifestyle and try it on baby steps, a little bit at a time. And if you like it for a weekend, then maybe go back and rent an Airbnb for a month if you can. Stay there, really learn the area, and go at the worst time of year. I always say go to Florida in July or August rather than January. No offense, Gayle, but
true. No, it's true. It's true. It's true.
I've been there, done that, and it's not pleasant. But if you like it, then you can probably enjoy it in January without any hesitation. So I definitely think it's try and buy is good.
So how are you at mediating these children, the adult children squabbles?
Well, it depends on the situation. I had one where it was an aunt's property and the niece had not had a chance to, what she said, say goodbye to the house. And so she and her big bouncer boyfriend showed up at the open house, and he came right up to my face. He says, "You have no right to do this." Well, it was a bank. The bank was in charge of the sale. And so I shut the open house down, and I told the bank, I said, you need to get this straightened out. But I said, I recommend that you let her go into the house for a week. She wanted to sit in every room and say goodbye to her aunt. I said, that's not a big deal. Go ahead and do it. And sure enough, she was happy, and then we sold the house. It was no problem. But mediation is tricky because you never know. I had a grandson once. I was selling the grandparents' house, and the daughter was overseas, and he didn't want to move, so he set the deck on fire. Things like that happen, that I had to have a bodyguard go with me to, protect my interests when I went over to the house. But there's all kinds of shenanigans that go on with various people because either the best or the worst comes out in them when this happens. And just, I guess 20 years of doing it, I've learned a little bit of everything, but you do have to be cautious.
Well, did you write just the one book? It sounds like you've got 2 or 3 books inside of you.
Everybody says, "Oh, Debbie, you should write a book just about your clients." I'm like, nobody would believe me because I have so many interesting cases where I've had to do any kind of myriad of things. But the general feeling is, oh, just give the keys to Debbie. She'll deal with it. It's not like, oh, well, we have to interview and talk to just get Debbie to do it. She'll take care of everything for you, and you don't have to worry. And I do. So it's very interesting. It's not like just selling a condo or selling a townhouse. I always have issues involved with each one of my clients. So that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, you could do a lot of case studies, change the names for the innocent, or the guilty. Yeah. And really, I think it would be amazing to hear some of these things. I would think very much what lawyers go through, when they hear all these different stories.
It's true. But the lawyers usually wind up calling me saying, "Debbie, I don't have time for this. Can you deal with it?"
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And I do,
wow.
but You can't ever surprise me. Everybody says, oh, I'm so embarrassed to have you see the house. I said, you should come with me when I really have a bad house, and then you won't feel so bad about yours. I mean, it's just, I've seen everything. I think I've done it all, seen it all. I mean, over 20 years, you get a lot of exposure to different situations and different problems that people have.
Well, we have about 3 minutes left. What
Oh
have
my,
I
that was
not
fast.
what have I not asked you, or what have we not talked about that you think it's important for our listeners to hear?
My biggest thing that I say at my seminars and when I talk to people, as I say, make the decision while you're able to. Don't let a child or somebody else, somebody that you don't know, come in and make that decision for you, because you're probably not going to like it. Don't be a procrastinator, be a planner, and make decisions up front so that people know what you want, and that you get to enjoy the place that you chose and not the place that someone else chose. So don't be a procrastinator, be a planner, and get all the information you can, and then get some more. And the more information you have, the more comfortable you will feel. And don't wait. Don't wait until it's too late and your situation changes and you can't enjoy the rest of your life because you didn't make the decisions that were necessary. And just go for it. Just do it.
So how can people get in touch with you? What is the best way for them to reach you?
Well, through my Facebook, which is Move or Improve. Unfortunately, it's on my phone, so I can't give it to you. They could email me at Debbie, DEBBIE, at debmiller.com. Facebook, Move or Improve is my business Facebook page. They can contact me there, and if they want to, they can sign up to and just like me on Facebook, and then they can get more information, because I talk a lot about all different kinds of things, from communities to things that you have to think about and that sort of thing on the Facebook page.
Fantastic. That sounds great. And then you have a website, right? Which is debmiller.com.
debmiller.com. I mean, I have Twitter, I have Instagram, but Facebook is the popular mode of communication with baby boomers.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, I can't tell you how enlightening this has been and how worthwhile it is for our listeners to have heard you today, Deb, because I think you're just such a wealth of information. I think it's great what you're doing. And I hope people take advantage of getting in touch with you, because you can really make it so much easier for them, which is what's important. So if you want to reach Deb, go to her Facebook page. Should you move or improve, go to her website, debmiller, debmiller.com. Go to Amazon, get her book, Move or Improve. Lots of ways to reach her. I want to thank you so much for being with us today, Deb. It has been absolutely fabulous.
Well, Gayle, I so enjoyed talking to you. You are a delightful interviewer, and sometime when I'm down in your neck of the woods, I'm going to stop by and we'll have a drink.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot, Deb.
And I promise I will check your storage bin to see if it's been cleaned out.
Okay, sounds great.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. Thanks again.